Welcome back, I'm Captain Xavier, and I love all things modular. It's been a while since I got to say that because it's been a while since I've done an EIR attachment video, but I've got a bunch of new ones as well as revisiting a couple of old ones, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Those of you who have been watching my fan mail videos know that I got sent 3 3D printed attachments for EIR from a fan recently, and unfortunately I've managed to misplace one of them, so I'm not including those in this video. When I find the one that's missing, I will then do them in a video, and they're going to be really cool. A couple of people spotted something that I didn't spot when I first opened it about one of them, so we'll get into that when I get to that. So, let's start on the end and work our way through. A number of these attachments are actually the result of suggestions from fans, which is why I read my comments as thoroughly as I do, because I get so many amazing ideas from you guys. So I don't remember who all these came from, and for that I apologize. You know who you were. Go ahead and give yourself a shout out, and I will thank you in the comments. Gosh, that sounds just lazy and bad. But let's go. First one here, this is of course a Specter Cylinder. Now I have made Specter absolvers before. I made them for one of the Drain Blaster pistols that I designed, the one that was made out of a Specter. But I'd done the same thing to them that I did to my Maverick cylinders for my Drain Blasters, which is I took the ARs out. This one still has its ARs in, and I'm sure you're all immediately getting ready to type comments and they're going, why would you leave the AR in an air blaster? Very simply because it has created a select fire absolver. So if I only put one dart in, the ARs will block the other 4 and all the power will go into this one. If I put 2 in, those 2 will fire. If I put 3 in, those 3 will fire. So I now have an absolver that is capable of firing 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, depending on how I load it. Now they're not perfect air seals, so they will lose some power, but because they're short barrels, it's really not going to matter that much. It fires very well, as we will see in the demonstration later. So that was an idea that somebody gave me. They linked me to somebody who had custom built an absolver with ARs so that they could do select fire. I decided to build it out of a Specter because I had one and because it was easier. This one is, of course, the barrels out of a Baron. I took a Baron apart and I added a sledge fire cylinder onto it, or a shell onto it, so that it will fire 3 elites instead of 2 megas. I don't think I've actually done the full review on my Baron pistols. I will have to get around to that. But this one, likewise, still has its ARs in. One, because they're kind of difficult to remove from the Baron cylinder because it's glued together. But it also means that I can now fire either a single mega or 2 megas, depending on if I load both barrels or if I load just one. So that is kind of neat. Plus it has more power than the 3-round one does. This one is of my own design. It fires the original pop rocket ammo that EIR's original underslung attachment, the Horror Maverick, fired. And I made an attachment that fires a single one of those based on a fan suggestion, which pleased me on a deep and nerdy level because it meant EIR could now fire her original underslung ammo again. And then I got to looking at the Air Max 1000, and it turns out that the pegs are exactly the size for a pop rocket, so I took the end off of one of those and made an absolver that now fires 4 of the little pop rockets, which could be a lot of fun in Nerf wars that have the rule that rockets break shields, because I would certainly argue that these, having little fins and saying pop rocket, qualify as rockets, and I would then have a scatter shot rocket launcher for taking out shields. Now, if they wanted to say that at least 2 of them needed to hit it, I would think that would be perfectly legit because they're small, as opposed to like Demolisher rockets or Titan rockets. But that was a neat one. I'm looking forward to testing that one out. This was another one that was entirely a fan suggestion, and I hope they watch this and give themselves a shout out so I can say thank you and give them credit. Essentially what this is all by itself is a single barrel for an elite. However, you will notice it has a barrel attachment. Now, why would I want to have a barrel attachment on EIR's Titan? Well, I'll show you. For Axe Bayonet. Yes, EIR can now take the Axe Bayonet to her Titan and still fire single elites. It blocks the manual pump, as you can see, but the motorized pump works just as well. So you can then barrel load and fire from your Axe Bayonet, which is precisely the sort of nerdy and unnecessary modular attachment that I am, of course, all about. So, whoever gave me that suggestion, please mention it in the comments so I can thank you. This one actually was also kind of a fan suggestion, kind of evolved. I think I had mentioned that I kind of wanted to make a blunderbuss attachment where you could just load a bunch of stuff down the barrel and fire it all at once no matter what it was. And while technically it works, it has about a 10 to 15 foot range and it doesn't work very well. The original barrel actually was a little bit longer and had another section that wrapped around the outside that you then put a foam cap onto, which allowed you to load, a bunch of elite darts, some mega darts, some rival rounds, whatever you want, just shoved into there, put a cap on it. It's got a wad in the barrel that holds everything, or makes sure that, the air actually pushes out, and it kind of fires everything at once. But like I said, horrifically short range, and there were better ways to go about that. But then someone else recommended that I make a sock launcher, because socks are a common ammo type in HVZ, which is what I do. And I realized that I could, in fact, use this blunderbuss to fire my special HVZ sock ammo. I found a pack of ridiculously violently colored socks. I've got green, orange, and this kind of neon yellow. And they, in fact, fit nicely into this barrel. And it will, in fact, launch them. I don't know how far it will launch them, and I may not test it today because it's been raining for the last 4 months, and my alley is a bit of a swamp, and I don't want to get it nasty. But I fired it in the shop, and it does, in fact, fire. So it's not going to have great range, but it's fun. This one is one I have been considering for a while, and I've put it off because I felt bad about it. But I finally cracked and went ahead and made it, and it is everything that I knew it was going to be, and it is horrific and it is terrible. It is, in fact, a bolt-action, fully brassed, single elite launcher for a Titan. The bolt is from the Predator that I took apart to make the extended barrel on my Sentinel. So I figured I'd go ahead and make a bolt-action Breech. And it can fire, of course, either elites or Stefans, and it gets at least 200 FPS and will put a dart through a cardboard box at 20 feet. So this is not something I would probably ever actually use. I might use it in a Nerf war that was only adults. I would definitely never be allowed to use this in HVZ, nor would I even consider it because it's entirely too dangerous. But it's a lot of fun. I'm willing to single a Titan like this. I would definitely never single a Drain Blaster with this because that would be an obscene amount of power. I might do it just to see what kind of power it gets, but I would never actually use it. The final two, these are not new attachments. I have just worked out new ammo, so to speak. This is my Whistler barrel, which is made out of, I believe, the barrel from a Stampede. And I have created, based on a fan suggestion, a Lego dart. So this is entirely Lego. It's got a Technic peg up the middle. It's completely smoothed. I've used caps so that it doesn't have any of the studs showing, and it does in fact fit fairly perfectly. So that's going to be interesting. Again, I would never shoot this at another person, but it's hilarious because I love Legos and I love Nerf, and now I've combined the two. And the last but not least, probably one of the most common suggestions that people have made for new attachments was to be able to fire old school mega darts from the original Nerf guns from back in the 90s. And it turns out they have the same, the shaft is smaller. It's somewhere in between an elite dart and a mega dart, a modern mega dart. but the head is the same size as a modern Mega Dart. And so it does in fact get a good tight seal in my Mega Launcher, my Mega Dart launcher, and it's also my rival launcher. So that worked out pretty good. I'm going to test both of those and see what kind of range they get. I don't imagine they will fly particularly well, but I'm looking forward to testing it. So let's head out into the alley and give all this lunacy a test. All right, starting with the Specter attachment, firing a single dart. The Specter attachment firing 2 darts. The Specter attachment firing 3 darts. The Specter attachment firing 4 darts. And finally, the Specter attachment firing all 5 barrels. Now the Baron firing single. And now firing 2. Pop rocket cluster shot. Lovely. Axe bayonet firing single. Good lord, I almost hit a squirrel. It has occurred to me that socks can be washed, so sock launcher. Fabulous. Now for the fun one, the brass barrel, and I'm honestly not expecting to get this dart back. A little bit of fishtailing there. That was a full-length dart. This is a nipple tip half dart. Oh my. That is beautiful. That fired so straight. My resolve is weakening not to use that. Now firing old school Mega, and I hope I can get this one back because it's the only one I have. Oh good, it didn't go too bad. Now just for the fun of it, Lego! Wow, actually got good range. Alright, well surprisingly I was actually able to recover all of the ammunition. I was actually very surprised to be able to find the ones that came out of this one. But let's take a look at the results. Now obviously many of these were built for form rather than for true function, but some of them function fairly well. This one actually didn't perform overly well, which didn't really surprise me. Like I said, the air restrictors are not perfect, and so when you only load a single dart, it got very poor performance because some was lost through the other barrels, AR or no. The more darts you put in it, the better it performed. With all 5, it performed the best, which really means this doesn't have a whole lot of use because the hammer shot cylinder fires much better firing all 5, but, you know, it was an experiment. This one actually worked much better. Firing a single barrel and both barrels, it actually got about the same range. So, again, I don't think it got as good a range as the 3-shot, but the 3-shot is CPVC, so it's tight the whole length, whereas this is, like most barrels, not actually tight until you get down to the last inch or so. So, if I wanted to get really good performance out of this one, I would need to rebarrel it, and at that point, I'm just building one from scratch anyway. This one I knew wasn't going to perform well, and it performed actually slightly better than I expected. It gets a decent grouping. I could probably hit a decent-sized shield with 2 out of the 4, which would just be fun. Again, not a terribly practical one. This one, despite being arguably the most impractical, actually got really good range. It fired at least 120 feet flat, because it is a fairly long CPVC barrel, and I loaded it from the back, so it got the whole barrel. Plus, axe bayonet, how can you argue against that? This one got about the performance I expected. Firing a sock is obviously not terribly aerodynamic, and it has a fairly decent amount of mass compared to, say, a Nerf dart, so it got about the range I was expecting. I was actually fairly pleased with that. This one got every bit as good a performance as I expected. Firing a full-length dart, it got about 150 feet, and firing the half nipple-tipped dart, it fired a good 175 flat and straight as an arrow. So that is beautiful. That pleases me. That I have plans for the future that makes me hopeful for. The Lego, of course, fired horrifically. It came out, did not fire straight, but it got decent range, oddly enough. And the old school Mega fired just fine. So there you have it. This was a fun set of attachments. I will get to the 3D printed one whenever I find the other one. I'm looking forward to some of the other ideas that he and I came up with, so stay tuned for that. If you have any suggestions for things that I haven't done yet, before you comment, go rewatch the original one and the first 2 addendums. I have done lots and lots of attachments, so be sure to rewatch all the previous ones, and then if you can come up with something that I haven't done yet, go ahead and put it in the comments below, and I will look into it. And as always, thank you for watching.